All right, gentlemen. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever the fuck you are. Today, I decided that I'm gonna jam your ears full of nonsense and talk about double single action guns. And why they're not exactly out of date yet, but I'm hoping to God that someone decides to modernize them. Out on the table, I got a whole bunch of random shit, and we'll go left to right. I got my platypus in the corner that was recently acquired. Um, Same thing with the USP here. Oh, I already fucked up my whole method. But platypus, CZP10S, SIG P226. That originally just had a normal slide on it, and I replaced it with something from SIG's website. My 47, my S&P 2022 minus the light, which went to the platypus. The P09C Nocturne, and the H&K USP 45 Expert, my current favorite fucking gun, with a nice custom holster from a beautiful man at Next Level Tactical. I gotta look up who I got this custom one from, but this was River Arms for the platypus. I think it's a normal go-to. Same thing with the USP. Next Level's just known to give that kind of good stuff. After I got this, I immediately asked him for an over the waistband one because Jesus Christ, his quality is amazing. I actually really like the little step ladder he's got on the appendix portion of this, but I'm using the Constantine carry belt with all that. You see my nice sweat lines and starting to have a nice bend to it from use. Maybe I'll do a review for that someday, but I don't think I really need to. A lot of people already have, and the fact that I still own it says something. Going into the double single action stuff, though, we'll lay it out a little bit more towards the center. Take my striker fire out of the way. It's disgusting nonsense. What I'll be going over today is just what's going on. What the fuck, A lot of companies are straying away from this. SIG and CZ are the only two, in my opinion, and Beretta. I'll give Beretta some props, that are keeping theirs in rotation, but HK, for example, they're still creating the old 90s beauty, but when it comes to updating their P30 series, their HK45 series, nothing's going on there. And I think a lot of people would love to see this modernized instead of having to send it out and get it a nice cut from Right Armory, which cuts a hole in the pocket. You have SIG's S&P 2022, which after my nice little review, I put a few hundred rounds through again. Still one of my favorite guns in my collection, especially for the price, but it's not modernized. I think that's going to be the key detail today. We also have the Nocturne CZP09. There's a little red cap in there, so I'll put the hole through my wall. This is between this and the 226, the two modernized versions that I own. I actually enjoy, and I wish the same treatment would go to these two. So, just getting into a ballpark price, we'll speak on a general scale now. Your budget options are kind of limited when it comes to things being modernized. So you have the S&P 2022, your CZP09 series, whether you get the compact or the full size. You can go back a series and get the 07, which will probably be even cheaper, but then you're going to have some work to do, whether it be optics cuts, or you could just send it out to Cajun, get it Cajunized, which I haven't done with this. I kind of like the state that it's in. You have the H&K 45 and P30, which is hovering probably 200-300 more than these two, saying that these are about 500, even lower if used. You'll probably see those 750 or 8. And then everything from there is kind of fucking expensive. You can find surplus Berettas, or the PX4 Storm, but those don't typically have cuts, and if they do, you're lucky. Anything optics ready that isn't this, you're gonna get hammered. So if we go to the 226, I think I got this. Shit, I don't even remember. A few years ago, let's say, and it's about 1,200, and that was minus the optics cut, just the normal slide. Just threw on some marksman sights and called it a day. And then about a year ago, I said, screw it. Let me just put this slide on there. And it came with the Romeo X. which has been a little joy so far. I have no complaints with it, but out the gate, this is $1,700 said and done, including the light. Then you have the USP, which getting into that, like, that's $1,100 minimum, unless you're finding something used, or you're fighting somebody on Gunbroker for hours on end. This I picked up for about $1,000, and then you're paying $70 for a transfer, but you still need a light adapter, right? You still need the optics cut. You don't need it, but you desire it. You want it. Then you have your Shadow 2 series from CZ, which is just the bump up from this. You have the Shadow 2 carry, the actual competition guns, and then I forget what the single action only one is, but you're spending anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 minimum. And for something like the HK, you still have an optics cut or an adapter that you have to spend on top of that. What do I want to see? As you can see, I got my iPad in the corner, so I'll be swiping up and down. I want to see companies like HK, SIG even, and Beretta start to offer more discounted, modernized guns. Something similar that you'll see from Glock, for example. I can't tell, or I shouldn't say that. Glock and CZ and the other striker-fired companies are offering something that's polymer base. We'll pick this up as an example. Polymer base with an optics-ready cut. This has a plate on it, but you get the meaning. And typically just throw it on and go, right? We already have the rails. So my question to companies like CZ and HK is, what's stopping you from adding a small cut up top here and giving the budget affordable option that people are looking for, that they're getting out of Glocks and CZ and PDPs, even fucking the 320, if you want to talk about something that's relatively questionable right now when it comes to its integrity. We take the guns in their base state. Let's look at something like holster support, right? Your Shadow 2s, your P Series, your 92s, you're probably going to have an easier time getting holsters, but I had to go custom. These are still relatively new, but the P09, I had to go to a custom maker, have this holster made. It's beautiful. I love it, right? Even the USP Expert, it's difficult to find something in its retail state that isn't cheap, so that's custom. The S&P 2022, custom. It doesn't fit into any of the 226 holsters that I have for this. And, here I had to go T-Rex before Lucas left. But for the P10 in the corner, that's Tier 1 concealed. Platypus I can't even talk about. But Glock, you have Safari Land availability. Got surplus stuff out the wazoo that you can just take and cut. I've some holsters from AIM Surplus that I spent $30 on. And I just made cuts for it before I decided to just wail out and buy a nice new one. But you have this mainstream support here when it comes to holsters for these guys. But then, ignoring having to deal with your light mounting and trying to get optic support, it's difficult to try to keep up with these double singles in today's age. So why Striker? It's like a 5-piece pyramid. You have price, right? Consistency, modernization, reliability, and weight. Weight's not a ginormous factor. It is one, though, for some people. When you have the polymer lowers, taking even something that's aluminum adds 5 to 10 ounces. 226 heavily outweighs my P09. I can't give you the actual ounces right now, but I can tell you just by picking the damn things up, like, this is loaded, and it still weighs less. But, when it comes to carrying, who wants to add another 10 to 20 ounces if you don't have to, especially if your system can't support it? The Constantine carry belt's been pretty good to me so far. I'll give them that. But price, they're Glock Blue Label, $5 to $550. Even surplus Glocks, you can find a 17 for about $500 without the cut, but you could spend maybe $100, $150 either on a cut or a new slide, and you'll be good to go from there. So what, $650, $700, and you have a gun that's ready to roll for an optic. you spend the same at HK and you're going to have a P30 that you still need to get a cut for from Right Armory, for example, which is anywhere from $300 to $450, depending on how lucky you are. You know, it's people tend to lean towards Striker just because you'll have an easier go and it's a reliable gun that you're able to just jump right into, right? But even let's just talk only about price. I made a small little chart, just that bullshit ass Excel. I'll pull up on my iPad while we're sitting here cranking it, right? You can see me in the corner here. I'll cut that out. But I didn't actually send it to myself. I'll have to make a cut in the video here. Maybe while I'm shooting the shit. This guy's unprepared. This guy's not ready for YouTube. He's not ready to make it big. But who is? Come on, Google, let me save it. All right. So hopefully I cut this out. Otherwise, I'm making you listen to me ramble and spew while I unfuck myself. But if we take something like the 226, you have a low or high budget. This can be bought on Aim Surplus DAC, or if you're really lucky, double single, anywhere from $500 to $600, let's say, after taxes and fees. If you want a cut, that's another $3. An optic in the low category, I'm not spending under $250 for an optic. $100 for light. Mags are probably going to be anywhere from $25 to $45. So your total with all those accessories, including $50 ammo, low budget, would probably be about $1,300. I have $1,275, right? Ignoring the cut, let's say you just leave out the cut, $975. Maybe you got lucky, it's optics ready. I don't believe that. And totally ignoring, optic light, $625, just for a double single gun similar to this, ready to go if you want to send it out to get a cut. If we ignore all that, add in a $700 optic. Well, you want an RMR HD or an Acro, right? And you just decide to totally splurge. You're getting expensive magazines. You're buying more than 3. You're going to spend about $2,400 getting something like this good to go, especially when you have something like the 226X, which was just released. That's $1,400. That's a real kick in the dick. You go to the USP, on top of the guaranteed spend when it comes to getting a cut, you're going to spend more on magazines. Probably going to add another $200 to $300. Let's say you're spending $2,500 minimum for a gun that might not even have a sight yet, because Wright's going to charge you $450 for the cut. Hell, you might spend $3,000 trying to modernize a USP Expert or a normal USP. You take the CZ-P10 Striker in the corner, buy it used, even a high budget like $400 to $550. Overall, you're going to wind up spending anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 trying to put what I did here. You just take an Acro that's about $6 after taxes, fees, and me bullshitting with a military discount, and just buying like 3 extra magazines. The gun was $550 after I used a certain pay membership club, which has actually been really nice. It's not terrible, but I'm getting this entire setup for the same price for an optics ready 226X. What the fuck would I go and waste all that money away when I could just buy this gun base with the sight, even add a holster and $250 worth of ammo. It's almost stupid. It's the same thing with the Glock. You even have more modularity or support when it comes to aftermarket stuff, right? It became really clear to me as to why people just pop onto these things, ignoring the consistent trigger pull, which is, you can get that fucking, you want consistent, there you go, that's consistent. Or you can just get an LEM model from HK, which isn't double single. But I just don't understand what's stopping a company like SIG from taking this model and modernizing it. If you could do it for the 226X and add pretty much $200 onto the price tag. What's stopping you from just adding a cut to this or modernizing it? You know, you change the hammer and make it look pretty here too, but I don't get why you have to change anything else besides a cut up here. Maybe the internals. I'm not a gunsmith, I'm not an expert, but with how people are viewing SIG in today's market because of the 320's questionable integrity, I feel like this would be in some way a company saver, because who doesn't enjoy an affordable double single that's ready for you to just get after it with an optic, especially a delta point cut or just providing plate support. Which brings me to, why the fuck would you even go double single in today's market? Nostalgia. I think nostalgia is a big part of it, but also just because the single action on some of these can be buttery smooth. So we have the HK here, it's clear. Your reset and everything else about this gun is wonderful, but you also have a variety of ways to carry it, right? Here I have it in double action with the safety on. I can carry it double action with the safety off. I can carry it cocked and locked. Once again, there's nothing in it. I'm showing you the loaded magazine, but there's nothing in the gun. You have that option, which you don't really get out of striker fire guns. You're kind of just stuck with cranking around into the chamber and hoping that you don't accidentally pull it, which, you know, it's a rarity nowadays. I don't think too many people are ripping guns into holsters. But I think with today's tech, especially what SIG is doing with their 226s or their P-series guns, which you can't even say the 229 because now it's the 226X carry. They could easily take the S&P 2022 and just add a cut to it. Maybe modernize the grips a little bit, but I don't see anything wrong with the texture that they have compared to this Easy Grip or E2 grip that they have on the 226. Even HK, I understand that they work around contracts pretty much. They're not going to fucking please the consumer, but, you know, if Right Armory is capable of taking even the Expert, which has this wonky iron sight cut in the rear, and giving you something that's capable of having an Acro or a Holosun or an RMR, hell, even the fucking RMR HD, I don't see why HK can't do it themselves. I think so far CZ is the only one carrying the modernized double single market. And to be honest, it's probably the way, if you are a new shooter and you want something that's double single, it's the only way you should go. We'll take the snap cap out. But in terms of ergonomics, personally, I don't like this slide release. It's hard for me with my small bitch hands to get my thumb around and crank it, actually release it, right? The decocker I enjoy. It's very similar to my USP. I mean, you can't fuck that up, right? Just a simple little button press down. But, you know, when it comes to the holster support and the initial release problems that this gun had, I can't fully say double single is the way to go in the market. I think if you want to go double single, your modernized option is a CZ P10 or P09, sorry. But, you know, why would you in today's market? I guess that's my question to the viewership. What the fuck is the point of sticking with double single in today's market, excluding nostalgia, and if you like the way it is when you carry, right? Like, I love having a decocker. It makes me feel a little safe. I know these guns you're meant to be safe with. I have a 320 that I keep in the safe unloaded because fuck it. But, you know, the idea is, it's you as a shooter. It's what you want. And personally, since I've gotten this thing almost a month ago, I love carrying it. It's a fucking ginormous gun, but it's fun, you know. And it actually hides really well with this holster. And I just, having 45, just, you know, it's a little tick box for me in my head that mentally I'm in a feel good spot. But all around, just, I have a feeling of nostalgia. I love shooting this gun because for some reason 45 feels like 9 out of it. And I feel confident with it. I think that's the end of my rant for today. I'll probably leave it as one big piece and maybe throw a chart in there or something. But I want to hear from you guys. If anyone has opinions, this will be a long one. You know, what do you think gun companies can do aside from modernizing? Is it worth modernizing? Should we say fuck it and just stick to strikers? Because, you know, as much as I love double single, I can't get enough of my 47. I put a performance trigger in it. Wonderful. My CZ-P10S is my favorite carry just because it's tiny enough for me to conceal. But in the same breath, I can get a full grip around the gun because I got a little bitch hands. Once again, I have the snap cap in there. I can get a full grip around the gun. It's comfortable, and the trigger is really nice for what it is. Probably going to replace the utility clips. But, you know, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think anyone can do in today's market? I'm looking at this company right here because they really need to unfuck themselves. Just to improve the way we view double singles, ignoring how popular single action 2011s are. You made it this far. Thanks for watching. I appreciate the support. I know this channel's still early. I'm going to be rambling a lot today. I think I'm going to try to bang out another video about the CZ or maybe the platypus. Just an initial hands-on. I can't even call it a review because gun only has 200 or so rounds on it. So, thanks again. You guys have a good one.